whistleblowers, they get approached by CIA and they are subject to immense pressure to continue their research, receive funding, and at the very end, prove and say to everyone that that was a hoax. An example of this case is with Colin Andrews. Colin Andrews was UK's foremost expert on crop circles. So what happened was that Colin Andrews, who was a really strong figure on that research field and apparently had so many followers, was approached by CIA, and these are Colin Andrews' words in an interview. He was approached and he was told that what CIA does with most of researchers is that they fund them and they keep them going and they keep them moving on up to the point where they will say publicly that this is a hoax. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened with Mr. Colin Andrews. He went to the US, he received funding from Rockefeller Institute, of course, and then he came up with an interview stating that at least 80% of those crop circles are hoaxes. In the first movie, It Is Among Us, we did an analysis of the alien autopsy, presumably presented by Ray Santilli back in 1995. We focused mainly on the medical aspects, on certain interesting facts, and we came up with the conclusion that that may have been an actual alien. What happens with Santilli is something that we've seen with other researchers or, so-called whistleblowers. CIA approaches them and invites them to basically debunk everything. Later on, Santilli came up with a confession that apparently this was completely fake, that he manufactured this doll with a friend of his, that he was a specialist on mannequin dolls, and another friend of his that presumably was the surgeon that cut up the body, and that it was just a hoax or a restoration of a film. So he was giving us a bit of a gray story, pretty much indicating that that was a hoax. However, if we take a very close look at this footage, again, we will see that his story doesn't add up. There's absolutely no way that his story explains what we see in this video. And this is for many reasons. One being the fact that in order to manufacture this alien that we see there, you need skills that renders you a superb professional. No amateur can do this. No somebody that is in the field but is not doing an amazing job. So this is not an amateur who's having fun. What makes Ray Santilli completely fraudulent in his confession, in him resending an explanation of the footage, is the fact that in the second video where he has the debris and he's showing all the cockpits and the panels and stuff, apparently he says that they came up with certain hieroglyphs that they put in those beams, but those hieroglyphs are Greek and they read Eleftheria, which means freedom, which is something that Santilli never came up with in his confession. So I think Ray Santilli must have been under a lot of pressure, and he decided to actually go about, just like Colin Andrews, to play along and to completely ridicule himself. Because if he was really looking out for a career, the last thing he would ever do is to become a mockery for everyone in the field and everyone around the world. Moreover, we know that there's another video out there that shows an alien, again it's back from 1947, that shows an alien being brought into a base. Santilli has nothing to do with this. If we study that second video, we will see several faces. Apparently that, people that used to serve the 519th group at Roswell, New Mexico in 1947. And if we actually go back to the Museum of Roswell and we look into the archives of the people and the staff of the base, we will be able to identify the first medic that reaches over and leans over just to inspect that alien. If you look closely, that person has a deformity in his left ear, which gives him an identity. Now we can look up this person and we can find this person. And that is going to be a very strong indication that this video is authentic. And if that video is authentic, then Santilli's video is also authentic.